Greetings. Greetings to all. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. It's April 7th, 2020. So I hope everyone's having a wonderful day and a blessed day. Hi, Catherine. Today I give thanks and honor to my parents, Junius and Evelyn Tinsley. Today is their anniversary. And thanks to them, our family legacy continued. And I also want to say happy birthday to my grandson, Tariq, who is 8 years old today. So 2 special days in my family. So I hope everybody is doing well. I hope this time I'm reaching you, everybody's, in good spirits. Hi, Aunt Carol, and hi, Catherine. So I want to start, I want to acknowledge my granddaughter, Hannah, who sent me a picture. She said this is her flag, and it represents 3 aspects of her. She's going to be a singer, a fashion designer, and a dancer. So those are the 3 aspects of Hannah. Singer, fashion designer, and dancer. And it's important for children to know you can be whatever you want to be. When I grew up, they used to say, oh, what do you want to be? The one thing. You can be many things. Okay? So let's begin. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. In the stories that I share every day. Hi, Stephanie. Yes, I'm Carol. Today is my parents' anniversary. So they will be married 69 years today. God bless their soul. So I have 2 stories to read. One is a fun story, and they're both fun, but one is a real story, and the other is just a fun fantasy called Llama, Llama, Red Pajama by Dewdney. Llama, Llama, Red Pajama reads a story with his mama. Mama kisses baby's hair. Mama Llama goes downstairs. Llama, Llama, Red Pajama feels alone without his mama. Baby Llama wants a drink. Mama's at the kitchen sink. Llama, Llama, Red Pajama calls down to his llama mama. Mama says she'll be up soon. Baby Llama hums a tune. Llama, Llama, Red Pajama, waiting for his mama. Mama isn't coming yet. Baby Llama starts to fret. Llama, Llama, Red Pajama whimpers softly for his mama. Mama Llama hears the phone. Baby Llama starts to moan. Llama, Llama, Red Pajama listens quiet for his mama. What is Mama Llama doing? Baby Llama starts boo-hooing. Llama, llama, red pajama, hollers loudly for his mama. Baby llama stomps and pouts. Baby llama jumps and shouts. Llama, llama, red pajama, in the dark without his mama. Eyes wide open, covers drawn. What if Mama Llama's gone? Llama, llama, red pajama, weeping, wailing for his mama. Will his mama ever come? Mama llama, run, run, run! Baby llama, what a tizzy. Sometime mama's very busy. Please stop all this llama drama and be patient for your mama. Llama, llama, don't you know Mama Llama loves you so? Mama Llama's always near, even if she's not right here. Llama, llama, red pajama, gets 2 kisses from his mama, snuggles pillow soft and deep. Baby llama goes to sleep. And that's the end of Llama, llama, red pajama. I just want to say hello again. Hi, Aunt Carol, and hi, Catherine. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Val and Olivia. Hi, Sue. I can't see, it's awkward the way this stream. I wish I could acknowledge more people when they join in. For the second book I want to read, I want to share something first. Excuse me 1 second. This book is about a teacher. And I want to share because I had a teacher that was very instrumental. I had many in my life, but one in particular was actually my guidance counselor, Mrs. Fowler. And Mrs. Fowler was a 6th-grade teacher in Inglewood for many years. And then years later, she became a high school guidance counselor in the 70s. And I wasn't doing well in school. I was fooling around, and there were a lot of things going on in my life, and I wasn't a focused student. And Mrs. Fowler took me and shook me by the shoulders in her office and talked to me. And it really put me on a path, the right path. But I want to give a tribute to Miss Fowler because Miss Fowler taught 35 years in Inglewood and retired. And then she went to California and became a 1st-grade teacher for 15 years. So I really, my heart goes, my heart is with Miss Fowler. She's now resting in heaven, but she gave her life of 55 years, or 50 years rather, to education that I know of. So I'm going to read you the next story. Hi, Sue, as well, Sue Drakeford. This next story is called Thank You, Mr. Falkner by Patricia Polacco. And I just want to share because she's another one of my favorite authors. She often writes intergenerational stories where there's usually a grandparent or elder and someone young. And she also has lots of multicultural images in her story as well. So this story is Thank You, Mr. Falkner. Excuse me. Thank You, Mr. Falkner. And by the way, Patricia Polacco is the author and the illustrator of all her works. The dedication is to George Falkner, the real Mr. Falkner. You will forever be my hero. The grandpa held a jar of honey so that all the family could see, then dipped a ladle into it and drizzled honey on the cover of a small book. The little girl had just turned 5. "Stand up, little one," he cooed. "I did this for your mother, your uncles, your older brother, and now you." Then he handed the book to her. "Taste." She dipped her finger into the honey and put it into her mouth. "What does that taste?" the grandma asked. The little girl answered, "Sweet." Then all of this family said in a single voice, "Yes, and so is knowledge. But knowledge is like the bee that made that sweet honey. You have to chase it through the pages of the book." The little girl knew that the promise to read was at last hers. Soon she was going to learn to read. Tricia, the littlest girl in the family, grew up loving books. Her school teacher mother read to her every night. Her red-headed brother brought his books home from school and shared them. And whenever she visited the family farm, her grandfather or grandmother read to her by the stone fireplace. When she turned 5 and went to kindergarten, most of all she hoped to read. Each day she saw the kids in the first grade across the hall reading, and before the year was over, some of the kids in her own class began to read. Not Tricia. Still, she loved being at school because she could draw. The other kids would crowd around her and watch her do her magic with the crayons. "In first grade, you'll learn to read," her brother said. In first grade, Tricia sat in a circle with the other kids. They were all holding Our Neighborhood, their first reader, sounding out letters and words. They said, "Be, be, oh boy," and oh, look. The teacher smiled at them when they put all the sounds together and got a word right. But when Tricia looked at a page, all she saw were wiggling shapes. And when she tried to sound out words, the other kids laughed at her. "Tricia, what are you looking at in that book?" they'd say. "I'm reading," she'd say back to them. But her teacher would move on to the next person. And when it was her turn to read, the teacher had to help her with every single word. And while the other kids moved up into the second reader and third reader, she stayed alone in Our Neighborhood. Tricia began to feel different. She began to feel dumb. The harder words got for the little girl, the more and more time she spent drawing. How she loved to draw, or just sitting and dreaming, or when she could, going for walks with her grandmother. One summer day, she and her grandma were walking together in the small woods behind their farm. It was twilight. The air was sweet and warm. Fireflies were just coming up from the grasses. As they walked, Trish said, "Grandma, do you think I'm different?" "Of course," her grandmother answered. "To be different is the miracle of life. You see all of those little fireflies? Each one is different." "Do you think I'm smart?" Tricia didn't feel smart. Her grandmother hugged her. "You are the smartest, quickest, dearest little thing ever." Right then, the little girl felt safe in her grandma's arms. Reading didn't matter so much. Trisha's grandmother used to say that the stars were holes in the sky. They were the light of heaven coming from the other side. And she used to say that someday she would be on the other side where the light comes from. One evening, they lay on the grass together and counted the lights from heaven. "You know," her grandmother said, "all of us will go there someday. Hang on to the grass or you'll lift right off the ground and there you'll be." They laughed and both hung on to the grass. But it was not long after that night that her grandma must have let go of the grass, but because she went to where the lights were on the other side. And not long after that, Trisha's grandpa let go of the grass too. School seemed harder and harder now. Reading was just plain torture. When Sue Ellen read her page or Tommy Bob read his page, They read so easily that Tricia would watch the top of their heads to see if something was happening to their heads that wasn't happening to hers. And numbers were the hardest thing of all to read. She never added anything right. Line the numbers up before you add them, the teacher would say. But when Tricia tried, the numbers looked like a stack of blocks, wobbly and ready to fall. She just knew she was dumb. Then one day her mother announced that she had gotten a teaching job in California, a long way from the family farm in Michigan. Even though her grandma and grandpa were gone, the little girl didn't want to move. Maybe, though, the teachers and kids in her new school wouldn't know how dumb she was. She and her mother and brother moved across the country in a two-tone 1949 Plymouth. It took 5 days. But at the new school, it was the same. When she tried to read, she stumbled over words. The cat ran. She was reading like a baby in the 3rd grade. And when her teacher read along with them and called on Tricia for an answer, she gave the wrong answer every time. "Hey, dummy," a boy called out to her on the playground. "How come you're so dumb?" Other kids stood near him, and they laughed. Tricia could feel the tears burning in her eyes. How she longed to go back to her grandparents' farm in Michigan. Now Tricia wanted to go to school less and less. "I have a sore throat," she said to her mother, "or I have a stomach ache." She dreamed more and more, and she drew more and more, and she hated school. Then when Tricia started 5th grade, the school was all abuzz. There was a new teacher. He was tall and elegant. Everybody loved his striped coat and slick gray pants. He wore the neatest clothes. All the usual teachers' pets gathered around him: Stevie Joe and Alice Marie, Davy and Michael Lee. But right from the start, it didn't seem to matter to Mr. Falkner which kids were the cutest or the smartest or the best at anything. Mr. Falkner would stand behind Tricia whenever she was drawing and whisper, "This is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Do you know how talented you are?" When he said this, even the kids who teased her would turn around in their seats and look at her drawings, but they still laughed whenever she gave a wrong answer. Then one day, she had to stand up and read, which she hated. She was stumbling through a page in Charlotte's Web, and the page was going all fuzzy when the kids began to laugh out loud. Mr. Falkner, in his plaid jacket and his butterfly tie, said, "Stop. Are all of you so perfect that you can look at another person and find fault with her?" That was the last day anyone laughed out loud or made fun of her, all except Eric. He had sat behind Tricia for 2 whole years, but he seemed almost to hate her, and Tricia didn't know why. He waited by the door of the classroom for her and pulled her hair. He waited for her on the playground, leaned in her face, and called her Toad. Tricia was afraid to turn any corner for fear Eric would be there. She felt completely alone. The only time she was really happy when she was around Mr. Falkner. He let her erase the blackboards. Only the best students got to do that. He patted her on the back whenever she got something right, and he looked hard and mean at any kid who teased her. But the nicer Mr. Falkner was to Tricia, the worse Eric treated her. He got all the other kids to wait for her on the playground or in the cafeteria or even in the bathroom, and to jump out and call her stupid or ugly, and Tricia began to believe them. She discovered that if she asked to go to the bathroom just before recess, she could hide under the inside stairwell during the free time and not have to go outside at all. In that dark place, she felt completely safe. But one day at recess, Eric followed her to her secret hiding place. "Have you become a mole?" he laughed. And he pulled her out in the hall and danced around her. "Dumbbell, dumbbell, maggoty old dumbbell." Tricia buried her head in her arms and curled up in a ball. It was Mr. Falkner. Suddenly she heard footsteps. It was Mr. Falkner. He marched Eric down to the office. When he came back, he found Tricia. "I don't think you'll have to worry about that boy again," he said softly. "What was he teasing you about, little one?" "I don't know," Tricia shrugged. Tricia was sure Mr. Falkner believed she could read. She had learned to memorize what the next kid to her was reading, or she would wait for Mr. Falkner to help her with the sentence, and then she'd say the same thing that he did. "Good," he would say. Then one day, Mr. Falkner asked her to stay after school and help wash the blackboards. He put on music and brought out little sandwiches as they worked and talked. All at once, he said, "Let's play a game. I'll shout out letters. You write them on the board with a wet sponge as quickly as you can." "A," he shouted. She wiped a watery A. "8," he shouted. She made a watery 8. 14, 3, D, M, Q, he shouted out. He shouted out many, many letters and numbers. Then he walked up behind her, and together they looked at the board. It was a watery mess. Tricia knew that none of the letters or numbers looked like they should. She threw the sponge down and tried to run. But Mr. Falkner caught her arm and sank to his knees in front of her. "You poor baby," he said. "You think you're dumb, don't you? How awful for you to be so lonely and afraid." She sobbed. "But little one, don't you understand? You don't see letters or numbers the way other people do. And you've gotten through school all this time and fooled many, many good teachers." He smiled at her. "That took cunning and smartness and such bravery." Then he stood up and finished washing the board. "We're going to change all that, girl. You're going to read. I promise you that." Now, almost every day after school, she met with Mr. Falkner and Miss Plessy, a reading teacher. They did a lot of things she didn't even understand. At first, she made circles in sand and then big sponge circles on the blackboard, going from left to right, left to right. Another day, they flicked letters on a screen, and Tricia shouted them out loud. Still other days, she worked with wooden blocks and built words. Letters, letters, letters. Words, words, words. Always sounding them out, and that felt good. But though she read words, she hadn't read a whole sentence. And deep down, she still felt dumb. Excuse me. And then one spring day, had it been 3 months or 4 months since they started, Mr. Falkner put a book in front of her. She'd never seen it before. He picked a paragraph in the middle of a page and pointed at it, almost as if it were magic, or as if light